Welcome back to my animal education series. So today we're in my bedroom or my animal room now, and I'm not going to teach you guys about any sort of species today, but I want to do a video kind of like the daily life of having all of these animals. Typically when you see an animal room tour, all the cages are nice and pretty, they're all decorated, they're clean, all that stuff. That is not going to be the case in this video. As you'll see, I didn't clean or touch any of these cages. Just besides like leftover food that was left in there. It's just my usual thing. Now thinking back on it, I would have left them in there, but it is what it is. This is part of keeping these animals. But I wanted to give you guys more of an inside look of keeping these animals. If you don't have a bunch of reptiles and amphibians yourself, I can kind of give you guys a small window of what it's like to have these guys every day and to take care of them. Because you see in these animal room tours, all cages are clean. These cages aren't clean every day. If you have these animals, you know the cages aren't clean every day. The animals make messes. They poop and bring dirt in their water bowl like the turtles always do. But as I go around the cages, I will show you guys kind of what I do on a daily basis, what I do every couple of days. I have to clean all the turtles' water bowls out every 2 to 3 days, and happens to be the second day after I did it, so it's already time to clean them out. And Yertle and Steve over there, my 2 box turtles, will be perfect examples of why I have to clean out the water bowls every 2 days. But I think first off, I'm going to introduce you to my 20-gallon aquarium over here. To start off over here, this is my 20-gallon fish tank. This used to be my half land, half water setup, and I tried to put the stream in it. It looked cool, it sounded cool, but it just kept leaking into the land area, and after I rebuilt the tank about 5 times, I was quite honestly tired of rebuilding it. So I just got a bunch of tap water and I threw it in here. I didn't have the fish at the time, but I just threw it in the water, I threw in the plants, I didn't have a filter or anything, and I just kind of let it be like that for about a month. And then I'm like, well, I don't want stagnant water sitting in my room, so I went and bought a filter, waited about another month, and I got the fish to go in it. So over here I have a white guppy. Well, that's not focusing, but I'll get other clips of them in a second. I believe that's a dark blue guppy, and then I have red barbs. These 2 here are the females, and this bright red one is the male. They've actually had some offspring in here, which typically hangs out over here in the moss. There's one little one back there. Once I figure out the zoom on this camera, in a couple of minutes, I will get better clips of all that. But every single plant in this tank was actually from that other tank. The water lettuce and these plants here, these are the same ones from Josh's frogs. But all the moss and everything, they've continued to grow in here. But I have, besides the filter and the water heater, I did not buy anything else for this. Oh, I completely forgot I have some catfish in here. There's one right there if it wants to focus. There you go. I have 4 of them in there as well. The second cage here is Milkshake, my milk snake. More specifically, a Pueblan milk snake. I just pull up the palm fronds here, and there she is. I've actually noticed that this snake is way more active in this setup than the last setup. Back up in Illinois, we had her on aspen bedding, but now she is very active and explores all over the place, and she has a lot more stuff to hide on and climb. And not right here in the front, because I didn't focus on the substrate too much in the front, because that's not where she's going to be too often. But I got this plant here, but this tank is actually one, and this snake specifically, is actually one of the most low maintenance tanks I have here. I would change out her water about once a week because I just don't want a bunch of stagnant water in here. That green stuff, it used to be algae in a different setup I had it in, but that's just stained into the bowl now. But besides just spot cleaning poop and like water in this moss here, which I need to do again because it's that time of the day to water, because this moss does dry up really fast, I found. But as you can see here, this glass isn't as clean as you would see in a typical animal room tour. This one isn't perfectly clean, but it is a lot better than this. So I'm going to show you guys really quick how I do that. This here isn't exactly the most flattering angle, but this pane of glass looks really clean from this one, so I'm going to say that I did a perfect job, which it almost never is. So I have this diluted vinegar water mix. It still, I think I messed up my ratio because it still smells pretty strong with vinegar. I just spray it on the one side, and I just wipe down the glass, This isn't exactly a trade secret or anything, so most people do this. Just wipe it down like that, and to keep a lot of the vinegar from staying in there, I wipe it down with the dry side, and that helps prevent streaks or water spots or anything like that. And also, you don't want to leave a bunch of vinegar in there, especially when there's an animal living in there, because I'm sure that you guys don't want to be smelling in a bunch of vinegar. They don't want to be doing it either. I don't know, they might, but I'm going to assume they don't. It's not perfectly clean, but it looks perfectly clean on there, so I'm going to say I did a good job. But I'm not going to bore you guys by taking the whole 5 minutes of this to clean all around this tank. But let's move on to the next one and see our next issues. And I am aware that I just said issues, but a lot of these aren't issues. It's just part of the hobby that we all enjoy doing. This next problem, though, is an issue, and it was my fault. I didn't put this shelf high enough. So it looks like I have a lot of space here. I can easily fit my hand in there. But when I bring my sprayer over, which I put too far behind me, my bad. I have this little sprayer that I got from Home Depot. It's for like herbicides, pesticides, things like that. But it works great with water. Usually when I'm going around and watering all these cages, I'll use about 1.5 of these. Push this open, and I try to get this nozzle in there. It hits this, and the hose hits up here. It's really inconvenient, actually. I can spray it. This is the steepest angle I can go at, and I'm missing the whole front of the enclosure, which isn't too big of a deal. I can always push it sideways and just spray both sides. But for this next part of this video, I'm going to talk about convenience of having these animals. Now, in the terms of convenience, I am talking about lights and watering and misting. Now, some people may think that misting is super easy. You just get an automatic mister and you're good to go. And lights, you turn it on, you turn it off. But it's the little things that save time and make it more convenient to have these animals. On my fish tank, for example, there's 2 switches on the back here to make it super easy. Over here, it makes it a bit more difficult because the turtles have these plant lights, which, let me try to... I mean, it's not really focusing, but there's a switch here and a switch here. And as cool as these magnets look, I just knocked the one off the shelf. But yes, they look great, but they're really inconvenient actually when you're working on stuff. The turtles have these plant lights that have those switches there. And the 55-gallon tank has a switch here, and the snake has a switch on the same side. I made sure they're on the same side here. Not only because is there a multi-outlet back there, and an additional one here. Being on the same side makes it super easy. Steve down here has a plant light, and Yertle has a different style of plant light that doesn't actually have a button or a switch or anything on it. So I have a remote over here that turns, I have to point out the right direction. There we go. I was looking at the camera and not paying attention. Harry is a bit easier because the back switch doesn't work, so I just have to hit the first switch here in the front, and we're on and off there. The really inconvenient one here is Violet. It is because I switched between the night and the day bulb, and the switches fell behind there. Yes, the turtles have those switches here. I have these switches. Next is spraying. As I mentioned earlier, it's for herbicides, pesticides, things like that. And on this, you just pump it a couple times. And I didn't tighten the valve all the way here, so it's losing some pressure. But you just take this, and it works great. I use that for all my mistings and my waterings now, because it's super easy. I can take this pitcher of water and just dump it right in there. It's easy, it's ready to go in just a couple of seconds. And since I'm not a machine with a computer and a timer, I can choose how much water I'm spraying in there. If plants need more or less water, I can decide that on the spot and as needed on an as-needed basis. Humidity. Let's talk about this tank here. So a lot of the plants here, I have a couple air plants in there that are mostly hidden. And for the cool effect, I bought a fogger. This is totally on impulse. You don't need a fogger for most, if not all, setups. But I thought it was super cool to have this fogger shoot into this tank. And until I set up this shelf, this fogger actually wasn't that functional. I originally bought it actually for the 50 to 50 20 gallon that's over there. That's now the aquarium. But I thought it'd be a good use in this since I can make the space work And this adds humidity in here for all the air plants and other, it looks cool in general, but it does add humidity in here, which is good for the frogs and the salamander that live in here. And with the multi-outlets over here, you don't want to plug the one multi-outlet into the other multi-outlet. That's just drawing too much current and too much electricity from one outlet, and you can short a circuit, and that's not exactly the best thing to do. So avoid doing that. But these are just my little tips and pointers. So if you have these animals, you obviously understand this, and if you are looking to get into these, convenience is really huge, at least for me. And making sure these animals are nice and clean. Like, I don't think I only mentioned it for the snake, but definitely for Violet and the turtles as well. Just picking up poop, so it's not sitting around the cage. I do have isopods and springtails in all of these cages as well. They can only pick up so much because they're still establishing as a colony. Just doing it to help clean up the cage so the animals aren't standing and walking in their own poo and things like that. Spraying, make sure that all that's good, and paying attention. Like those cages over there that are in Violets, they move around to all the different cages, so they pretty much go in there for about 4 or 5 days at a time, except for they're kind of making a permanent residence in her cage since I set it up. But they'll go around all the cages, make sure everything's all good, ready to go, that none of the animals are too hot, too cold, and things like that. It's really good that you pay attention to things like that, so your animals are nice and happy, and you can enjoy these animals for a hell of a lot longer. Now, thank you guys for watching this week's video and my rambling about my animals. I love my animals, and anyone who has reptiles and amphibians, or really any animal in general, they will talk on and on and on about their animals and their collection and what they've done to help make their setups more practical. So I could probably talk for days about my animals and just things about them in their cages and what we've all done. And here I am rambling about me rambling. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this week's video. Don't forget to leave a big thumbs up down below, subscribe to my channel, and as always, I will see you next week.